And on the line and on the video with us is attorney and host of Ring of Fire Radio, Mike Papantonio. Ringoffireradio.com is the website. Hey, Pap, welcome back to the program. Hello? I cannot hear him. Oh, I've got to pick up the phone. I'm sorry. I totally forgot. I'm so used to Pap coming in by ISDN that, here we go. There, I just did it. Hey, Pap.
Hey, Tom, how are you?
I'm so sorry. I forgot to put you on the line.
All right.
It's great to have you with us. Chris Christie, I'm watching this train wreck and wondering, is this something that's unique to New Jersey? And I'm just curious your take on this. I don't know. You're an astute observer of politics.
Yeah, I don't know if you followed the HBO series Boardwalk Empire.
No, I never saw it.
Basically, it just shows how New Jersey in the early days, turn of the century, run by thugs, and that's what we have going on now. That's what this story is about. I'm amazed that when we hear stories about Chris Christie, that they're rarely put into context with where Christie originated. Now, understand, before you had big Wall Street money putting him in office, he was a lobbyist for the securities industry. I mean, he was a front man for the hedge funders, for the mortgage hustlers, for the big business that made huge money funding development plans just like the one that we're talking about today in New Jersey. You have a mayor, Don Zimmer, who is describing exactly what we would expect to see out of a man like Christie. First of all, you have to focus on the fact that he's nothing less than a Wall Street developer's dream, Tom. I mean, since he worked for the industry and now continues really to work for Wall Street and the industry as governor. I mean, that's a big advantage. But for some reason, the connections have been ignored, I think primarily because the media has tried to make him look into something that he's not. Media loves to do that.
Yeah. So, how widespread is this?
I think it's extremely, it always flows from the top. If you look at any organization, it always flows from the top. This guy's the governor. Not only is the governor, but he's in charge of all the governors throughout the country. He's the head governor of all governors in this country right now because they thought he was the face to put forward. But, you've got to talk about the money behind this guy. That's what this story, everybody seems to be missing this story. Look, the money behind him is Charles Schwab, it's Mort Zuckerman, it's Hank Greenberg, it's Goldman Sachs and J.P. Morgan. They expect their ex-boy, their ex-lobbyist, their employee, to use his new power as a bully, big-mouth tool to get what they want, which are things like what we see happening with the development in Hoboken, or the $2 billion. I don't know, this story where he gave this same crowd that I just said $2 billion in tax breaks. This is what they expect from this guy: $2 billion in tax breaks. And rather than media focusing on the story, the real story behind this thuggish Wall Street character, what they're focusing on is just the here and now. But you can't separate the two. The reason I have zero doubt about Mayor Zimmer, about her account of the political strong-arm bribery that Christie is engaged in.
Or extortion, really.
Yeah, exactly. It is extortion. Is because he's had cover, Tom, from Wall Street, big business, that developer crowd who's paid huge money to move their agenda. He's their guy. He's their tyrant. He is their mobster mayor at first, and now he's mobster governor, excuse me. But the point is, I don't know why the media felt so compelled to create this fantasy story about who he is. There's a total fantasy. Yeah. But nevertheless, the media kind of likes to do that. But think about this. The money behind that media that created this fantasy came from Wall Street, too.
Well, and there's a lot of interlocking boards of directors. And,
the
members of the same clubs kind of thing.
Exactly the same club. Yeah. But to me, that's an important part of the story. You have to, it's like having a witness on the stand. You have to understand, who is this witness? Let me know something about his history. Right. And here we know a guy that was simply the go-to boy, the tool for Wall Street when he was a lobbyist for the same people that engage in this type of political retribution all the time. Political retribution is a weapon of the first choice with big money types who always feel like they're bulletproof because of the number of politicians that they've purchased. So Mayor Zimmer, look, she's agreed to take a lie detector test. She's agreed to sworn oath that the story she's telling is correct, and she has said to their camp, "Hey, will you do the same?"
Right. And
they've said, of course, no. So it's an interesting story. It's not one that goes away. Right. Add to that story, Tom, the Wolf and Sampson law firm that's behind all this. If I were looking at this case and I were actually the prosecutor in this case, I would probably make it a point to include that law firm, Wolf and Sampson, in any kind of lawsuit I brought, whether it was criminal or civil, especially if there's a crime involved. And I would make it into a RICO kind of case, which I think they might have before this is all over.
Yeah, well, RICO, racketeering, racketeering in New Jersey are like synonyms, aren't they?
I think it might be where it originated, frankly.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny because I've been Rachel Maddow's been all over this, and she's been having these New Jersey, even, good Democratic politicians on her show, and they come on with this New Jersey accent, and the pinstripe suits and the big hair, and it's like, whoa, what a stereotype.
Yeah.
It's like,
well, this New Jersey money that we're talking about with Chris Christie, what we have ignored is that you've had Wall Street quietly buying up politicians all over the country. Cory, right there from New Jersey, is one of them. Cory Booker.
Cory Booker, yeah.
Yeah, he's one of them. I mean, he happens to be a Democrat, but they've bought a lot of good Democrats. You might remember Cory Booker feeling outraged when there was criticism of Wall Street, because Wall Street's invested into Chris Christie.
Right.
And when Chris Christie is told, get this development done for our Wall Street pal here, that's why he's there. It's that Wall Street money that put him there.
Yeah. So what do we do about this, Pap?
Well, I don't know that you can do anything other than what you've been talking about for years, and that's get the money out of politics. We're going to see the same thing. I mean, you see the story with Hillary Clinton right now. All this huge Wall Street money pouring into her campaign.
Right. It's time to roll back Buckley, basically, with a constitutional amendment.
Well, that's right. And it's going to be very difficult. We can't count on Congress doing anything about it. So it has to be a grassroots kind of constitutional amendment. But when you have something that's so fundamental that it can destroy, and I don't use that lightly. It can deep six democracy and replace it with something that's nothing short of corporate fascism. Then you have to say, well, this is important. Unfortunately, this conversation that we're having is so foreign. It's so misunderstood or completely not understood by the average American. They don't understand. All they see the story with Chris Christie, for example, something about a bridge, something about a development, and the media is they're so pathetic.
Yeah.
They never tie that up and say, well, the story is that Wall Street is buying politicians like Chris Christie all over the country.
Well, last week there was a Republican who announced that he was going to run for some major political office, and he was formerly a tobacco lobbyist. I'm forgetting who it was now.
I don't know.
There's so many of them.
I can't. I work against all.
Yeah, and so you go on there and say former tobacco lobbyist and former state congressman or something. Joe Blow is going to run for governor or senator or whatever. Why don't, when we start referring to Chris Christie, calling former Wall Street lobbyist and New Jersey governor, Chris Christie?
That's right. I don't know. That's my point. Why is it? You search the stories.
Yeah.
And you tell me how many times you've seen this securities interest, this Wall Street connection tied up to Chris Christie. Then you can understand why he.
Well, then everything. Yeah, then everything falls into place.
Exactly.
Yeah.